Welcome to 10-Minute Magic, a bi-weekly format covering news in the world of Magic the Gathering in 10 minutes or less. I am Joseph Dunlap.
And I am Ben Cotty. This is what's been going on Magic the Gathering this week. Pro Season conclusion. Next stop, Worlds. It was the final pro event of the year last weekend, Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. Other than the Pro Tour title at stake were the stories of players looking to lock up pro levels, silver, gold and platinum. The race to become your national champion, go Team England with Eduardo at the helm, and to fill in the last remaining slots at the World Championship. While we want to keep the show to our digestible 10 minutes, it's fair that each of these names has their time in the spotlight. Let's go over the 24 players looking to become 2016 Magic World Champion and win the biggest purse in the game's history to date. First up, we have our 4 Pro Tour champions. Kazuyuki Takemura, Pro Tour Battle for Zendikar champion, but an otherwise underwhelming season for the Japanese newlywed who will be looking to prove it wasn't a fluke. Jai-Tian Tao, Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch champion with the busted blue-red Eldrazi in Modern. Jai-Tian has had a steady season, but will have the support of his team East-West Bowl for Worlds. Steve Rubin was the Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad champion and responsible for last season's green-white tokens dominance. Steve is back at Worlds after his first appearance last year. And lastly, Lucas Blohan. With his victory last weekend, he locked up Platinum, the national champion of the Czech Republic, and his slot at Worlds.
Next we have the Masters. We've been covering the Grand Prix Master, but there are actually 3 Masters. First, Brian Bronduin. While losing his last 3 matches at the Pro Tour means he didn't finish Platinum, Brian will be at the Worlds as Grand Prix Master. Marcio Carvello is the Limited Master. A checkered past with a suspension and historical whispers from many pros of illegal tactics, Marcio's place at the World Championship creates quite a Twitter storm. Many players, including Willie Adele, came in to vouch for Marcio's conduct and fair play in the last few years. Marcio qualified with the title of Limited Master, picking up the most points from the booster draft portion of the past season's 4 Pro Tours. And finally, Oliver too. Representing the Grixis Shard in Pat Chapin's absence this year, Oliver hit Platinum and became Constructed Master across this year's Pro Tours, also snagging Rookie of the Year for his first year on tour.
And then the regional or at-large slots, starting with North America. Reed Duke. Reed's second Pro Tour top 8 last weekend locked up his spot as one of the top points earners in North America after narrowly missing the GP Masters race. With his nice guy mantra and fair play approach, he is probably the people's champion for the World Championships if it wasn't for the next qualifier, Luis Scott Vargas. 3 Pro Tour top 8s back-to-back have reasserted Luis as one of the greatest of all time. Now a father with the recent birth of his daughter Naya, he is the man with the whole community rooting behind him. Brad Nelson. Watch out people, Brad Nelson, former Player of the Year, has learned to draft, with back-to-back 6-0s in the limited portion of Pro Tours. Combined with his mastery of the standard format, this makes him a serious threat. Sam Pardee. In his best year to date, the Modern Pod Master earned his first Pro Tour top 8 last weekend, so comes in on peak form. And lastly for North America, Mike Siegrist. Last year's Player of the Year fell below his own high standards this year, but after a consistent year still makes the team.
The next region is the Asia-Pacific region. First is Ryoichi Tamada, defeated by Kazuyuki in the Pro Tour final but used this as a platform to a great year. Yuya Watanabe, the only 5-year-in-a-row competitor in this year's field, and multiple Player of the Year and World Champion. Yuya has the Hall of Fame ceremony to look forward to after his induction, and wouldn't mind turning up there as reigning World Champion. Shota Yasuoka, last and certainly not least. Shota qualifies in the year he became a Hall of Famer, a deck-building legend, and looking to win the title he has been so close to before.
And from Europe, Joel Larsson, a consistent if unspectacular season, now having shaken his Swedish Keebler tag, really looking to forge his legacy here. Andrea Mengucci, his first Platinum season and an at-large spot for his first World Championships. A great year for the reigning Team Italy champions captain. Martin Muller, his first Pro Tour top 8 this year, rocking GPs with 24 island decks engulfing the shore at GP Manchester. And last from Europe, Andrei Stratsky, last year's breakout sensation, pitched by Blohan to the national championship slot that can get some revenge over his compatriot at Worlds.
We have 2 coming in from Latin America, Paulo Vitor Damaso qualifying from his normal slot. This is one title that has eluded his resume. Tiago Saporito, the second Latin America slot in what was a pretty poor season for the region, allowing Tiago to sneak in after an unspectacular campaign.
And then we have 3 finally with unique qualification methods. We have the reigning world champion Seth Manfield. He's had a dominant year with pro points total that would have made him Player of the Year any other year in recent memory. The best player in the world bar none. Well, bar one who is up next, but a top pick to go back to back. Owen Turtle World, Hall of Famer elect, Player of the Year, and Mid-Season Master. So having the most pro points at halfway through the season, and unquestionably the best player in the game right now. Despite defeat in the Pro Tour final, everything Owen touches turns to gold. My pick for your world champion. And finally, we have Niels Norlander. Magic Online champions have often been the whipping boys at Worlds, and Niels will be looking to alter that story this year. This is obviously a great stack of talent, and we will be bringing you any news as we go towards the World Championships at PAX West on the weekend of the 1st to the 4th of September.
Next up, remember when they changed the Pro Club benefits? A while back, we brought you a story on the fallout following the organized play changes announced at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. After these changes were quickly revoked due to player and public backlash, Wizards has been working with a group of pros on what the future should actually look like. Last week ahead of the Pro Tour, Wizards of the Coast announced these new changes, and this time nobody really noticed. While the timing of this announcement, before the Pro Tour rather than during, was great for Wizards, all the pros had their heads down playtesting. As long as the announcement wasn't terrible, there wasn't going to be much noise. Seth Mansfield is really the only pro player with an article written on the topic, and he seemed pretty nonplussed by the changes. The changes will come into effect in the 2017-18 season, so players starting 2016 and 17 know what they're playing for, which is the single biggest criticism. There are 3 main points. Teams matter. The ever-changing roster of players on the top pro teams didn't help make a narrative, and many casual followers found it hard to really back a team, more rooting for whatever team their favorite player was on. Starting with the test next season and full-blown the year after, the pros will start the season as a group of 9 players all competing for a $200,000 pot for best team in that Pro Tour year. All Magic players love the team elements, and this seems a win all around. Grand Prix appearance fees have been increased, but pros will only receive a maximum of 6. This should get some players out more, and some less, but Wizards doesn't want their top players driving themselves into the ground. And the final change is the Platinum players' hotel is removed. Platinum players had hotels booked out for them to use over the Pro Tour free of charge. However, many were not using them, and Wizards was spending money that was being, on the whole, wasted.
In addition to the Pro Club changes, some other announcements included changes to the Pro Tour Top 8 bracket, with Swiss rankings now having more of an impact. The top 2, for example, go straight to the semi-finals, while 5th through 8th will have to win 4 matches instead of 3 to take home the trophy. World slots have been simplified to 1 slot per region, the past champion, Player of the Year, Pro Tour champions, the Magic Online champion, Constructed and Limited Masters, and then the rest, the other 13, going to all at large slots. While the GP Masters race was fun, it was a slog, and many of the other titles were difficult to narrate well. This way, more of the best players in the season will qualify for the end-of-year championship. The other change is that at the championships, there will be less pro points available, which will stop the 24 World Championship players having a leg up over the other players in the season to come. And the final is in the 2016-2017 GP schedule. We have a few more events and a mega Las Vegas weekend of 3 GPs all rolled into one following consecutively after each other. And the return of Team Constructed with Modern. Now, a week of Wizards of the Coast communications couldn't have gone better until 12 hours before the Pro Tour started, when Twitter, led by soon-to-be top 8 competitor Sam Bardi, started tweeting about a new pairings rule brought in for the Pro Tour to fight against concession. Round 15 and 16 would be manually paired to make sure that people playing for something had to be paired up against each other. So in round 16, if you had 20 players going for something, only 10 could possibly hit their target. This can be summed up by the fact everyone agreed concessions were mostly bad, and we should try to avoid them. But forcing pairings only for the last 2 rounds of the last Pro Tour, and in no other tournaments before, with only 12 hours notice, was a little bit loose. Aaron Forsyth led the argument from the Wizards side, and confirmed that this will be integrated into pairing software somewhere down the line, and implemented at all professional tournaments where there is a relevant stake at play.
From the Vault Snore? From the Vault lore was announced this last week, with what the Magic community has dubbed 15 new hideously butchered foils being released. From a finance perspective, this hit the mark, with Dark Depths and Umezawa's Jitty doing the heavy lifting. The set was to showcase the lore and story of Magic over the years, and both these cards do a good job of hitting that mark. However, the other 13 cards miss financially, and don't seem to need a reprint due to demand and scarcity, and aren't obvious story points. This year's From the Vault has been summed up by Jason Alt, MTG Finance and EDH Guru, as From the Vault stuff they had lying around. Unmask will represent the Weatherlight saga instead of the ship, or possibly its crew. Phyrexian Processor was chosen to represent the Brothers' War and Phyrexian Invasion. Near-Death Experience for Zendikar. Cabal Ritual was chosen for the Odyssey block. These are very tenuous, with hundreds of more deserving and needed reprints that are more obvious representations of the places and times they represent. This announcement, like the Pro Tour changes announcement, was met with tumbleweeds,
Or in the UK, a damp squib.
but it will still probably sell for above MSRP.
Wizards brings diversity to the Planeswalkers. The past 2 weeks of Magic lore from Uncharted Realms have introduced to us Kea, Ghost Assassin, who is the first female Black Planeswalker. This is great news and further evidence of Wizards' recent movement on diversity representation in the game. They made a great move to hire outside assistants to help create the character's style, hair, and other traits to represent black females in media more accurately. Also a great move and very sensible. What much of the Magic community found odd was the subsequent press release where Wizards told us just how much effort went into the character's design, and a similar article written by the hired advisor and published on colorwebmag.com, a website that highlights diversity in media. Wizards of the Coast has been accused of using the new Planeswalker for PR attention and patting themselves on the back. Regardless, this is a positive step to further diversify the rich lore of Magic the Gathering.
In our final few minutes here, we're going to go to our recent Manaleak articles. First, we have the 5 do's and don'ts of borrowing Magic the Gathering cards and not lose friends by Graham McIntyre. Graham outlines how you should and should not behave on both ends of the Lindy borrower spectrum for a future happy relationship. While comments of bad experiences were common, many let Graham know this would really help them. Nick Butenko says, wonderful article. Also, collateral is a great way to do borrowing. Alexander Smith says, great topic for an article. I personally loan out a bunch of cards and have found the photo trick to be super useful. For best results, photograph the person with the cards.
Here. As soon as you start doing this, you'll never forget any of your trades ever again. From the community, a new fantasy crossover custom set. Dark Souls the Gathering, custom designed Magic the Gathering set by Jared McLaughlin. This set can be summed up by the first comment from Francesco Angeloni. This is fantastic.
And then finally, recently published and well worth a read and comment on is How Magic the Gathering Can Benefit Our Mental Well-Being by Claire Stevenson. A follow-up to how Magic has benefited her mental well-being personally, Claire reached out to the community for some heartwarming and soul-lifting tales of how Magic has helped others in their life.
Thanks for listening. If we missed anything you wanted to hear more about or dive deeper on, or want to let us know how much you enjoy the show, then leave us a comment on social media or find our text article forms of this episode on manaleak.com/mtgUK. We will endeavour to respond to you all. You can find Joseph on Twitter
At Joseph_Dunlap.
and myself at Carburita. Until next time, bye bye.